Just working every day and making money is not going to cut it. So there are a few things I advise any immigrant coming into America to understand. The first thing is always think about, how do I work less and make more? Number two, and most importantly, how do I put myself in a position where I can work, but the output of my work is quadrupled, is tripled, is duplicated, and is scaled.
Welcome to Cash Talk. Today we are on My Financial Missteps, where we bring immigrants to share with us the challenges, the biggest challenges and experiences they have in the US here with their money. So today we have an interesting guest and we're so excited to have him.
It's a great joy to be on your platform today. You know, when Daddy Vidal called me and told me, hey, Gustav, I would like to have a chat with you, I felt excited because I have been watching what you people are doing, and it's incredible the work you're doing. Most importantly, at the point in your life when you are getting really engaged in that, I see the discipline. I know you work the night shift, Mama Christy. You come back from the night shift, you have to sleep, wake up at 2 p.m. to get to talk to people. And all of this, you're not trying to help yourself. You're just trying to help those who are coming after you. You know, as it is said, great leaders are people who plant trees under whose shade they don't plan to sit. So to be on your platform today, to be on Cash Talk today, I am excited. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful having you today. And viewers, a privilege today to have the gentleman speaking with you. His name is GustavBAchu. He's a motivational speaker helping individuals, high-performance athletes, entrepreneurs, brands, and businesses find and connect with their core mission.
So let's go right ahead for you to share with us the biggest challenge. When you arrived in the US is quite different from where you're coming from Africa.
Correct.
So what was the biggest financial challenge you faced when you first arrived here in the US? How did you overcome it?
Absolutely, Mama Christy. Before even getting to the biggest financial challenge I face, I even just want to talk about some of the cultural challenges we face, right? Just the logistic challenges. I remember we left Cameroon coming to the US in the year 2000. We used Swiss Air at that time. It was flying from Cameroon to Zurich and then Zurich to Atlanta. And as you might know, Atlanta is one of the top 3 busiest airports in the world. So we flew into Zurich, and coming from Douala Airport in Cameroon, a smaller airport, I flew into Zurich and I thought this is a magnificent airport. And then when we flew for about 9.5 hours, I landed in Atlanta Airport, Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. It's a city. Boy, I tell you, it took me about 10 minutes just looking and deciding, Gustav, you belong here. You are here now and you have to make the best, right? So one of the biggest challenges I faced coming into the US, especially from the financial perspective, was more about just believing that I also deserve a piece of the millionaire cake in America. That I am entitled, and if I do all the right things, I should have a piece of the cake. The way America is designed, and by the very nature of this country, it tends to be very intimidating. I landed in Minneapolis, Minnesota in 2020, as I said, the year 2000, sorry. And they picked us up driving on the highway, 5-lane highway, Pastor Vidal. I mean, the lighting, everything is just intimidating. And you're like, hey, I think I need to shrink. But remember, the beauty about America is that there is room for every dream. There is room for everybody. There is room for every financial ambition. That is why the work you are doing, starting to help us see how we can reshape our financial destinies. And no matter what age in which we are, no matter how long we've been in America, no matter all the challenges we might have faced, is very powerful and very divine ordained.
Indeed, Gustav. Considering the fact that you have been here 24 years now, if you landed in 2000, so
Correct.
What do you say would be one of the first financial mistakes that you made when you came into America, and what did you do to overcome that mistake?
Oh man, the first or the one. Listen, as they say, if you're not making mistakes in life, you're not doing anything of significance. Right? I've made a lot of financial mistakes, but the one that really comes to mind a lot to me is the inability, to just be able to leverage what we have. What I mean by that is basically getting into enjoying the availability of credit without understanding that when you're spending today on credit, you are basically spending the resources for tomorrow today. And when you're doing that, what it really means is that therefore you will not be able to meet up with what you have to meet up tomorrow. So to me, one of the first critical mistakes I made was overstretching my credit availability. And for anybody listening to us and also thinking about the best way they can leverage America for sure, right? Credit is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. In fact, you can't get ahead in this country without a good credit. And I know you talk
Exactly.
about that on your platform,
Absolutely.
right? But it's
Yes.
also coming from the cultural background we come from, coming from the financial background we come from. Sometimes we don't have that emotional strength to manage the availability of resources to us. And at that time in your life when you are young, you don't even know exactly sometimes the impact these things have on you. That is one. The second one, financial mistake I made was in 2008. No, in 2005, sorry. That was right before the financial crisis. In 2005, I bought a home. That was the first house I bought in my life in the US. And at that point, I was a young man, right about 32 years old or so, right? And I wanted to buy my first home, which is a town home. And I looked at this home and I fell in love with the home and I paid that home for $199,000 at that time. It was a 3-bedroom, 2 bathrooms, 2 living rooms, nice, about 1,800 square feet townhome. Beautiful place, right? But now, even though I bought that home, the mistake I made is that I didn't really go do a little bit of research on what the economic projections are in the next 5 years and the last 5 years. Nothing too complex. You see, sometimes, especially as immigrants, we get intimidated. We feel like you need to be an economics professor or some kind of intelligent, smart engineer or some daring lawyer like, Mama and Papa Chris to understand. No, these things are very straightforward. With a few videos, with a few books, you can just be able to see where things are going. I didn't realize that that house was built this was 2005. So it was built in the year 2001 for about $98,000. The first owner lived in the house for about 2 years and he sold it for $134,000. And this second owner was selling it to me for $199,000. And at that point also, there was a lot of information on the TV on the impending housing downturn, on the impending economic crisis. And even out of all of that, the natural trend in the US is that every 12 to 15 years, there's going to be a reset of the economy, right? So I didn't understand all those things. And I dove into that deal, got the house, and in 2 years, the house was underwater. It was valued at about 110,000, and but I was still owing about 180,000. And I tried pushing. At a certain point, I made a very important decision, and this will address the second part of your question. What did you do to salvage that situation? I made a very important decision a year after. We kept pumping in money, and I told myself, you know what, Gustav, this is not going to work, right? Based on the economic projections, based on how things work, it's going to take about 4 to 6 years for this house to come back to the losses it has already incurred, and then for me to even get into profitability and be in a place where there is even a little bit of money on it, that I could sell the house and make some money on it. So I told myself, I'm going to foreclose on that house. It was a tough decision, but I decided I was going to foreclose on that house, which I went ahead and did. And I also filed for bankruptcy at that time. I filed for a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, right? A Chapter 11 bankruptcy means you're going to repay your debtors. The only difference with the Chapter 7, which is saying, hey, I don't have a dime. I can't pay nobody nothing. I'm out, right? They say, okay, we forgive your debts, but you lose your credit for 7 years. Chapter 11, you say, hey, I can pay, but the way you guys are coming down my throat, I cannot handle that. Mr. Government, the court, bankruptcy court, help me out. Tell my creditors I will pay them X amount of money every month based on what I make until I clear their debt. Just give me a little bit of breather, right? So I did that. I paid hundreds of thousands of dollars back to the bankruptcy court. I foreclosed on that main house. By that time, too, I had made another mistake and bought a second home for rental. I had to foreclose on these two houses. So this is about 2005. No, this is about 2008, right? 2008, 2009. And at that point in 2008, 2009 too, I was also starting a major business in Africa for distributing natural health products. So I actually lived and worked in Nigeria for 3 years between 2009 and 2012. So when I look back now, it was a major mistake because number one, I was trying to handle too many things, right? I don't know, probably in your culture you have it. In our kitchens in Cameroon, especially our local firewood kitchen, right? There is a ceiling area where we dry corn on it so that the heat and the smoke from the kitchen will get to the corn. And to get up to that ceiling, you need to climb up the ladder, right? And usually, if you've ever tried it, Pastor Vidal, anytime you try to climb the ladder with corn in both hands, you are going to fall.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I learned something from that incident. I learned that I'm trying to climb that ladder of success in America with corn in both hands. It cannot work. You have to choose one or two things, focus on them and build on those. And then from that, you start building and building and building, right? So there are a lot of different missteps I've made, a lot of different mistakes. And the way I look at it, they've just been guiding posts for me. Because those mistakes are what have taught me a lot, have strengthened my resolve, and have given me the ability to restart a few times in life when challenges come. Because life, as we know it, you are either in a problem, you are heading towards a problem, or you are just coming out of one.
Talking about this information, buying this house and a lot of things you did not know and how you now ended up with bankruptcy, foreclosure. What will you really advise new immigrants? Where can they find reliable information that will help them, start life on a successful footing?
That's a very, very good question, Mama Vida. And the reason why is because they say my people perish for lack of knowledge. Okay. And if you notice in recent times, there have been a major uptick in information about financial education. And the reason why, rightfully so, is that a lot of people only realize at some point in their life that just working every day and making money is not going to cut it. So there are a few things I advise any immigrant coming into America to understand. The first thing is always think about how do I work less and make more, number one. Number two, and most importantly, how do I put myself in a position where I can work, but the output of my work is quadrupled, is tripled, is duplicated, and is scaled. That is where people like you come in, because you teach people not only about financial management, but about programs and insurance programs where people can really duplicate themselves and be able to multiply the output of their singular effort. Because one of the things that happens, especially to us immigrants, is when we come to America, we have the pressure of taking care of the people we left back home. Because of that, the first thing we want to do is start taking care of those people. Listen, when you are flying in the plane coming to America, what is the first thing the air hostess told you? In case of an emergency, put on your oxygen mask first before you try to help the next person. We come to America, we're trying to help everybody without helping ourselves. The next thing we know, we're trying to build homes without even living in a comfortable home here. Let me tell any immigrant listening to me right now, the studies and chances are very clear. More than 90% of immigrants are going to live most of their lives in America. So there is no point trying to live in America and you are planning a future life and trying to invest your life in Africa or wherever you come from. And I want everybody to understand me. I am not saying we shouldn't support our continent. I am the number one believer in partnering with our continent. But you cannot partner with our continent if you haven't partnered with yourself and build a stable foundation. I just put a video out not too long ago talking about why it is important that when you come to America as a new immigrant, the first thing you need to do is to get yourself to a place where you can take care of yourself comfortably. When you can do that, then you can help others. Because if you don't do that within the first 5 to 10 years, you'll be like one of the thousands of bitter immigrants. I spend my time supporting people in Africa. Now I don't have nothing. They have diseases, and you're getting angry. You have to do that. The second thing, financial education is no longer an option. It's a must. And the beautiful thing about the time we live today, we have people like you spending your time trying to teach people about how to manage. You have your platform bringing people like me and other speakers to come and share their experiences, share their mistakes. What that means is if there's somebody listening to me, you don't have to make my same mistakes.
Exactly.
I'm already cutting your mistake propensity by 50 to 60%. By telling you that even if you don't have nobody you can bounce ideas to, you have financial decisions you want to make, Mama Vidal and Papa Vidal are there. Talk to them. They can analyze that for you and tell you exactly how to go forward. Because one of the things that we immigrants need to understand, we come from a culture where we've been taught to save. We come from a culture where we've been taught to own things. And now we are in a culture where you get ahead by investing, because there's a difference between saving and investing. We come from a culture where it is possible to duplicate your effort by doing work within a period of time, and after that period of time, that work continues to amplify by itself. Now, if you don't understand all those things, you quickly just start working. When I look at my own life, one of the things I hoped and I wish that we had were platforms like your platform today and what we do, trying to teach people, give people financial education, help them be able to minimize their mistake propensity. Because once you don't have that financial education, you will not be able to get ahead. When I talk about financial education here, I'm not talking about anything sophisticated. It's available to us on YouTube. You're going to be putting these videos on YouTube for those who are not watching live. They will be able to watch it. It's going to stay on YouTube for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years until you take it off. It's going to be there, right? There are books available that you can read. There are books available to give you an understanding of how America works. You asked me about credit in the beginning when we started. That's a powerful thing. A lot of people will tell you, no, I don't want to take nothing for credit. Hey, I don't want to get into this American system. You are deceiving yourself and you are killing yourself.
YouTube tells us that 75% of you watching are not subscribed to our channel. So we ask you, please subscribe. If you've enjoyed what you're hearing and you've gained value, please think of joining the Cash Talk family. Subscribe, right? So we give you a few 5 seconds, hit that subscribe button and the notification and join us.
Considering the fact that we come from a cash-based economy in Africa, so those strategies you used, in obtaining credit, and obtaining credit cards. When we first land here, we are green. We don't have the credit card. We don't have anything. So what were the strategies you employed in obtaining to build that credit in the first instance, and how you were able to get that credit that was helpful to you, and why do you say it is important?
I think here in America, in my opinion, understanding the way I understand America today, other than God, oxygen, and your family, credit is certainly the most important thing. I tell people, have it even if you don't use it. Just have it. Because the way the system is designed, credit is one of the 3 key things they use to judge you at every level. You try to get a job, they do a background check for your criminal record. They might do a check for your degrees and all of that. And they always do a credit pool. Because a credit pool tells the employer or anybody trying to deal with you your level of responsibility. Right? Credit is what gives you a chance to go ahead. I'll give you a simple example, Pastor Vida. It's not necessarily a perfect example here, but think for example, I live out here in Austin. I've lived in the house I live in now since 2017. I built that house in 2017 for $368,000. It's a 5-bedroom, 4 bathrooms, 3,600 square feet home, right? I have a little bit of a big family, 6 people. And 2 years ago, It was valued right about about $600,000. That is about the $237,000 in equity. And I wasn't able to raise $368,000 to pay for that home. What got me that home was the fact that I had proven before that every time they lend me credit, I pay on time, I pay above the minimum, and I am not irresponsible with spending more than 30% of the credit I have available to me. What that did is that the bank looked at that and said, Gustav, you've been a good guy, man. It's okay. You wanted $368,000 to buy a home. We're going to give you that every month. You just pay us $3,700 or whatever it is, right? What that does is that it gives me a chance to get an asset that has appreciated and given me leverage to be able to get additional 200 and something thousand dollars in additional credit, if in additional money, if I want to take that money out and use it as equity, line of credit, or I could take it out as an equity job, right? Now, without credit, I would never be able to do that. Without credit, many people will not be able to do that, right? Think about things like even going to school, higher education in America. Without tuition loans, a lot of people will not be able to advance themselves and put themselves in a place where they can earn more money. But in the same token, credit is like water, I tell people. Water can be used, like the great fella said, water no get enemy. Water can be used to make medicine, to treat people, or it can be used to make poison to hurt people. Credit is like that. Even though you have the privilege of having credit, but you also, that privilege comes with responsibilities to manage it right. I always advise people, I say use credit for assets, not for liabilities. Use credit for things that the value increases over time, not depreciates over time. One of the key examples we can think about are things like cars, for example. The day I understood that you lose 25% of the value of a car, immediately drives off the parking lot, I almost had a heart attack. And I stopped financing cars from that point going forward. I'm being very serious. A year ago, I had an 8-year-old car I was driving, and it had an accident and they totaled that car. It took me I didn't need a car because I'm mostly home. So I was sharing a car with my daughter and my wife. And I decided I wanted to buy a different car about 4 months ago. You know what I got? I went and got a $10,000 car because I could pay $10,000 outright. Straight up, I don't have to deal with no loans. I don't have to deal with paying 7-8% in interest with a car that the value is most likely going to get lost immediately I leave that parking lot. So we need to understand the power of credit, but also the ability for credit to destroy your life if you don't understand how it works. That is why I always advise people to understand the value and importance of credit, but to be responsible with it. So talking about how I built credit for my own self, the first thing I did when I came into the US, I got a secured credit card. A secure credit card from the bank. Wherever you go open a bank account, ask the bank after a few months, they can give you a secured credit card. Usually it will be $300, $400, and you start using it and paying back. Understand, everybody listening to us today, understand how the thinking behind credit works. Credit is simple. Mama Vidal, I come to Papa and Mama Vidal and say, hey, I'm having a problem. Please give me $2,000. I'll give you in 3 months, in 5 installments. I'll pay every 15th of the month for the next 6 months and I'll clear out the debt. They give me $2,000. And the first month I pay, the second month I pay, the third month I pay until I pay it off as we agreed. And if I have a problem, I come back to them and say, give me $10,000. Would you hesitate to give me? No. I have proven that I'm responsible. But if I don't do what I said I was going to do, what you're going to do is, hey, you know what? I can't give Gustav that money, but that is not even the only downside. The downside is that because Pastor and Mama Vida now no longer trust me, They have also given information to all our networks that this guy is not trustworthy, man. Don't give him money, he will not pay back. That is what happens with your credit. Now they report it to all these credit bureaus and financial institutions, and anything you want to do, they pull up your credit. They say, sir, we love you, but I'm sorry, we can't help you.
Definitely.
Right? Awesome.
That is a
Awesome.
perfect, good way of explaining credit. I really like the way you've explained it.
Yes.
That's a good way for our viewers to understand how credit works.
Talked a lot about money and the responsibilities and what you should avoid here. So, but the problem, what drags us in, or the traps we face, just as you started from the beginning. When we come here, we want to focus on people back home. We haven't put on the oxygen mask for ourselves, but we want to start helping others to put on the oxygen mask. Can you share with us, like, how do you balance supporting people back home and then your own family here in the US? How do you strike that balance?
Well, I think, and this is very unique to us immigrants. I have, some friends who were born and raised in America, from different countries and from different races, especially, traditional Americans. Sometimes they don't understand our African culture. They don't understand these emotional ties and these cultural and community ties. That a child is born by one set of parents, but it's the communities to raise, right? And so there is this pressure. This is September, it's back to school. I am sure you are feeling the heat. The text messages are coming, the calls are coming. You have to make a decision. And sometimes you make decisions which you don't feel good about, but you know it's the right decision. Because at the end of the day, right, you are not valuable to anybody if you are not alive and strong to take care. So the way I always look at this and the way I handled it, from the beginning, I handled it differently. Younger, more vibrant, came to the US. A dollar was 700 francs CFA in Cameroon, a lot of money. I will even just sit after working doubles as a CNA and call my friends in the university and drop them $100. That is 70,000 CFA. Man, they can have a blast, right? There is a time for everything. I am not saying here a young person coming in, just stop your life and become an old hermit and don't do nothing. No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that keep in mind the bigger picture. Understand that there is a time coming really soon that you will not be able to have the same physical energy like you have. That you'll not be able to have the same mental energy that you have. You'll not be able to have the same drive and work that you have. And sometimes you might even be fired for your age because the younger people are coming with more intelligence and greater skill and flexibility. So what that means is that you want to prioritize yourself and your family first. It's important. Because when you do that, it gives you a certain amount of peace now to be able to start looking at other people. Number two, always remember when you are leaving and coming into the US, in most cases, nobody had died before you left. Truly, let's assume that you were living in abject poverty. Yes, there are people who are living in abject poverty. I don't deny that. I am not naive enough to think that, right? But before you left, nobody died. So probably nobody is going to die in the next 2 to 3 years or in the next 4 years. During those times, you're taking to get yourself together. You're taking to get yourself acclimatized. You're taking to also identify a place and a means to generate income. Now, that's one. The second thing, when you do that, I advise people, when you do that, think about dedicating a percentage of what you make to help your family if you want to help. And you never go above that percentage. Understand that anytime you go above that percentage, it's impacting your own virtual ability to be something. The third thing, understand also that a lot of times, even though it might seem like you are the only eye, but you're not the only eye. When you were not in America, somehow life still went on. Now you are in America, yes, you want to make life better. But also understand that if it doesn't happen that time, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It means it's going to happen, but when you get yourself in a position where you can make a lot more money, you can even help easier. Let me put it this way. Let's say, for example, you come in, like most people, myself included, first year making $30,000, right? That is before taxes. 30,000, you'll probably be in the tax bracket where maybe, let's assume you don't pay no taxes, right? You're in the lower tax bracket. $30,000, your cost of living, housing is about 1/3 of that amount. So that's about 9,000 out the door, right? You talk about all the other costs before you're saving. So you're ending up with maybe a net of about $6,000, $7,000, which is net for you, which you can dispose of, disposable income. Now, if you're giving 10%, let's say you've decided that 10% is going to be all what you can spend for your family at every point in time. If you're giving 10%, that is $600 out of $6,000, right? Fast forward 3 years from that point. Let's say you go to nursing school, you finish or something. You are making $70,000, $80,000 at that point, right? And your net of that 80,000 relative to 30 is about $12,000, $13,000, right? You're giving 10% of $13,000. That's $1,300. It's more money for them and it's more money for you. I don't know if I make sense.
Yes, of course.
But it would never happen if you didn't have a chance to go develop yourself and get to that position now when, even when you are making that sacrifice, it is not too cumbersome on you. That is one of the things. The second thing for somebody coming into America and managing the relationship with our families back in Africa, we should understand how to meet people where they are. What I mean by that is we certainly want to work on the minds of our brothers and sisters so that way we encourage them to see things from a different perspective. Today is even much easier because there's the internet, they are even way advanced than us. But when I say we meet people where they are is, for example, I've been with a lot of friends and family members who complain, oh, I tried to give this one money to start business, they failed. I tried that. No, are they business inclined? Are they business inclined? Can have they proven that they could manage 100 naira or 100 they could manage 10,000 nairas or 100,000 CFA? But you are already giving this person 100,000 naira without him proving that he can manage 110,000 naira. You're setting that person up for failure, and you turn around complain that you invested in them and they didn't turn out right. Right? So one of the important things we have to do a lot of times is to also not try to decide on what they want, but try to understand what is it they want to do, number one, and also not understanding that through direct questions. What is it you want to do? No, right? A lot of times people might say things that they think you want to hear or something like that, right? More about in conversations. So what are you doing these days? What have you been successful at doing? It doesn't matter the size of the success. What have you done? Right? That can give you information on how to help them. So that is the second thing I would think it's important on how to manage our relationships, especially with our people back in our countries of origin. Because our role as diasporans, as people living in the diaspora, is to find a way to build that bridge. Every other community in America has done that for years. Granted, our African community, we are relatively maybe the second or third generation at the most, compared to other communities that are the seventh, eighth generation, right? So we're still learning, but we need to be in that mindset to understand that we are providing a bridge of communication, a bridge of partnership. Trust me. For example, the people managing my social media activities, working on my videos, my social media presence, the copywriting, all that stuff. The guy who owns the business is a 24-year-old boy out of Abuja.
Oh,
I
wow,
just came
that's
through my meeting. I
interesting.
have meetings with them twice a week, right?
Okay.
He has a team of 7 guys, and these kids are creative. They got something in their head. It's crazy the way they think. They don't need to be in America physically to deliver, right? But I also recognize the fact that we need to have honest conversations about where I'm trying to go, how you guys can help me, be open to me. If you're failing at something, tell me you're failing. Let's try to fix it. Don't try to be perfect. Don't try to create a sense of better than who you are. And I think we, as this first and second generation diasporans, we also have to cut some slack and try to help mentor the people who will connect with them. Mentorship requires forgiveness. It requires a little bit of tolerance. It requires understanding that mistakes will be made, right? But it also requires not being a fool, recognizing that you can only give so many chances. 1 time, 2 times, third time, you cut it off.
Mm-hmm.
Let them figure
Perfect.
it out for themselves.
Yeah.
Are we
Perfect.
together?
I hope everybody listening and hearing today is appreciating the powerful nuggets that are being dropped here and making sure that you subscribe, you watch,
Yeah.
you listen, go back and re-listen to this video so that you do not miss the powerful nuggets that Mr. Gustav is dropping for us here. Now, our brother Gustav, coming back again to America itself and with new people coming in just as you came in, but are there other ways you can simply advise our new arrivals on investing and saving for the future here in America? Because like you said, a lot of people
Yes.
come here and they think they will go back in probably 3, 4, 5 years. They end up being here for the rest of their lives. So
Absolutely.
what are those nuggets for them to prepare to invest and to also save for the future?
Absolutely. I think that is a brilliant one because that really touches on that fine line between our cultural challenge of coming from a safe, heavy background to an investment heavy background. Anyone coming to America needs to understand the mindset of America. America is the greatest nation on earth, bar none. There is no country that gives privileges to immigrants than America. There is no country in the world where an immigrant can come in and within the first 10 to 15 years, if they work hard, they invest in themselves, they can be a legitimate millionaire. No doubt. It doesn't happen in China. It doesn't happen nowhere. So for us as African immigrants, we need to understand how the other communities have been thinking about this privilege. The Jewish community, the German American community, the Italian American community, name all of them. They live in America, they operate, but they have their anchor in their countries of origin. What does anchor mean? All the Jewish friends I've went to school and worked with, they always go back to Israel 2, 3 times a year. They never forget Israel. They never. So the first thing we need to understand is when we come to America as immigrants, we need to never forget where we came from, number one. Number two, we also need to remember that we have a moral responsibility to make it better. That's what I talked about, leadership, planting trees under whose shade you will never sit. What you two are doing now, it is fair for me to say, hey, you're my elders. What you two are doing now, this is going to impact people for the next 30, 40 years. Probably by then you might not be alive if it's God's will, right? And you know that. Why are you waking up from sleep from work to do this at 2 p.m.? Because there is something in you that is telling you, I cannot live without leaving a legacy. So as immigrants, the second thing you need to do is to think about a legacy. And a legacy only qualifies as a legacy if it impacts somebody other than the immediate people around. Because if you don't think about your legacy, you won't have the motivation to work now. You have to live your life understanding that there will be a time you're not going to be around, but even when you're not around, you want your spirit, you want your knowledge, you want your gifts to last a long time. And especially for us coming from the continent of Africa, once we start understanding the concept of legacy, then our leaders and people in position of power stop stealing. Because it's no longer about just you. It's about those who are going to come after you. I have this analogy I always like to share. It's a real life story, actually. Saudi Arabia, the king of Saudi Arabia is very old. He's probably going to be passing in the next few years. But a few years ago, he went ahead and publicly recognized his heir apparent, who is a prince, that he's going to be the next king, who is actually the person running Saudi Arabia today. And what that young man did, one of the first things he did once he ascended to the throne is he called some of the most intelligent Saudi Arabians, locked them up in the room and gave them one assignment. Can you guys give me a game plan for Saudi Arabia 100 years from today? You know why he did that? It's certain he's going to be dead. It's certain he will be long gone by then. What a lot of people don't realize, and that is where one of the things, that is where some of the developed countries are way ahead. They don't plan for today. They planned. They plan for a long time ahead. America has one of the most blessed endowments when it comes to petroleum products. It needs cracking, fracking, and all of that. But America will go out and try to find oil from different parts of the world. Because if they start exploring only their oil, their studies indicate that it may run out in the next 80 to 90 years. So the question for every president, what happens 90 years from today, right? Until we African immigrants, we African people in general, start thinking about legacies, then we start understanding. Because when you start asking those big questions, a lot of things no longer become important. It doesn't matter anymore to you whether people think you are rich or poor. It doesn't matter anymore to you whether you're driving a Mercedes or a Range Rover, because your focus is no longer about validation. It's about education and guaranteeing something that outlives you. When we start asking those big questions, that is why your platform and what you do is powerful. I also amplify that a lot on my platform. I talk about the mindset. I talk about how to invest in yourself first and invest in yourself for personal growth and profit. And then I talk about legacies, because amongst us are people who are going to change this world, including you, including me, and a lot of the people listening to us.
Okay.
The third thing, and very important, prioritize learning how to invest on the US stock market. There are two places wealth is built in America: on the US stock market and in real estate. Those two areas. That is the two areas. Now, in those two areas, you have umbrella areas which gives you now the ability to build on those areas, like IUL, Index Universal Life Insurances. It provides you the resources to be able to build on these two preservative areas of wealth. It gives you the ability to build wealth and access that wealth without paying taxes, and you can sponsor your investments on the stock market, and you can sponsor your investments in the real estate. So when you prioritize learning how to invest, that is when you start understanding the power of vehicles like Index Universal Life Insurance. I can say this in all confidence because to me, it took me a while to understand that concept. And immediately I caught the concept. It was like somebody took a black piece of paper off my eyes. I was like, now I get it. Yes. Now I get it. And since then, everything I do has been around the concept of duplication and being able to generate income tax-free and preserve your wealth, right? So anybody coming into America, prioritize learning how to invest. And to really learn how to invest, we must also think out of our community. You see, we are very communal. And because we are so communal, we tend to come to America, we stay only around our community, act only within our community, understand only within our community, and we never really understand how America works. Cameroon has a very huge Cameroon and Africa in general has a huge population in the DMV area. So, the Delaware, Maryland, DC area, right? The DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And there are a lot of people from our continent who don't even know how to order food from a regular menu because they've never been to a regular restaurant. They come and they go only to local mommy puts where they eat the same ogono soup, okra soup, and things like that. They don't expose themselves, right? They eat our foods, they interact only with our people, and then because you interact only with our people, you don't learn ideas. Your brother or your friend will always tell you, no, the only investment I'm doing, master, I'm just buying some cows in Cameroon, and that's what I'm doing. I'm buying some goat. I just opened a chicken farm. But you don't realize that because you're in America, you can't manage a poultry in Africa. They're going to chop the money. The facts, right? But if you invest or you learn how to invest on the stock market, you learn how to invest in vehicles like IULs, then in 10, 15 years, you can be able to go there and take 100,000, send to somebody. If they want to invest and chop, they chop. That's just 1% of your worth. You could care less. That is the deal. The name of the game is building wealth. If we don't understand the concept of investing, if we don't understand the concept of sacrificing present enjoyment for future gains. You see, most of us come from a continent where we are trained very early to make sacrifices. But then we come to America, our psychology, because of the marketing of America, is telling us that, hey, you know what? You don't know about tomorrow. Live now. You only live once. Anything you want, get it now, so that way you enjoy your life. Enjoy your life. And by the time we know it, we leave all those traditional concepts of sacrifice, of savings, of investing, of making sure you have $1, you spend only $2, 20 cents, and you try to make sure you save 20 cents or you invest 20 cents, right? We start losing that concept. And the next thing we know, we get into the flash, we get into the dynamics of America, we get carried away, including me. I am saying so because it's a struggle to walk through those things. But when you are not conscious about it, you cannot walk through them. I am where I am today because I made a decision to say, you know what, Gustav, you got to be able to understand how America works. America is not Cameroon. America is not Nigeria. It's not Senegal, where everything is necessarily cash-based, where everything is, investments is tough, where you only know people become successful, but you don't really know what they do. You ask a billionaire in Africa, how did you make your money? When God, it's the grace of God. No, it's not the grace of no God. You know what I mean? But we are in a place where that information is available. You want to learn about IUL, Papa Vidal is there, Mama Christine is there. They'll teach you everything you need to know about using the vehicle of life protection and also building wealth in that vehicle for you, your children, and 10 generations after you. You want to learn how to invest in real estate. There are people, anything you want to learn, but do you have the willingness? Do you have the determination? Because a lot of times we talk about destiny changers, right? Oh Lord, please send a destiny changer my way. Are you a destiny receiver? Are you ready?
A good one there.
I'm saying because, for example, your platform is a destiny changing platform. Mm-hmm. And I can guarantee you put up this video, the video where somebody is dancing gongongongo will have 1 million views, right? But they will not come and watch what is going to change their destiny. But now they tell themselves, God send me a destiny changer. The destiny changer is here. Are you a destiny receiver?
Very,
sorry,
very
sometimes
good
when I get into these things, I get very passionate, right? Because we must change our continent. I mean, we can't afford to be the last fiddle no more. We can no longer.
Honestly, I don't know what our people are doing when we have people like this who are dropping such powerful nuggets, channels like this, like he rightly pointed out. We are not young bees. We are not doing this necessarily for ourselves. It is to help you, the young ones who are landing on the shores of this country. So are you going to take advantage of it, or you just want to go and do the go dance and enjoy just that? No, but these are things that are going to change your destiny. I really love that. Are you a destiny receiver?
What holds us back for most immigrants is the kind of ideas that we come with, our own culture and other things. So when you first arrived here, what would you say are the cultural differences that you had to adapt to be able to start, following your own path of building wealth here in America?
Of course, there are many cultural differences, right? But I'll just touch on some of the key ones. There are certainly the basic cultural differences of just the environment, right? The largesse of the environment, the weather changes, the way people behave, eye contact, those cultural sensitive things. There is all of that. But apart from that, some of the big cultural differences to me, in fact, the most important one was the fact that America is a country that encourages you to be assertive. Encourages you to invest in yourself, believe in yourself, and open your chest and stand up and say, I am who I think I am. Because the culture we come from is a culture that shuns on assertiveness. It's a culture where, as a young person, you talk about certain kinds of dreams and they hush you down because of the nature of the socio-economic nature of the continent we come from. Sometimes the necessity for survival eliminates any ability to dream. You see, everything great in this life has been built on the back of dreams. There is no way you can tell me that it is normal human behavior to imagine that you could create an airplane to fly from Lagos to Atlanta. It doesn't make sense. Why would a human being think like that? But the few that think like that, right, it's because by some means, there is an environment that permits them to even aspire to think like that. I don't know if I make sense. Now, what that really
Absolutely.
means is that for us as immigrants, especially younger people coming into America, be audacious. Don't be afraid. Think the biggest dream you can ever think about and start working on it. I take myself, for example. I always use this example, right? I reflect about it a lot. I worked in IT the last 11 years. Great industry. When I came to America, I became a nurse. I became an LVN. I worked as a nurse for many years. I still have my nursing license, a proud LVN here. Nurses do incredible work, right? I did that for a few years. I raised about $90,000 cash. I went down to the University of Berkeley and pursued a graduate degree in business and international marketing. Mind you, University of California in Berkeley is one of the 4 top business schools in the world. I finished from there. I went back to Africa, did business in Cameroon, Congo, Nigeria, distributing natural health products, working with my uncle, network marketing. I was a marketing director. I did that for 3 years. It didn't work out. I was bankrupt. I lost everything. I filed for foreclosure. That's when I closed my homes. I paid about 100 and something to bankruptcy court. I was finished. I came back to the US, right? And then I went into IT school, completed my IT studies, got a job in Texas, moved to Texas. And for the first time at the age of about 34, I started making 6-figure income, which at that point, even till today, only 13% of America makes 6 figures. So it's not a big deal, but it's kind of a big deal. Okay?
Oh, yes.
Now, that is not the reason why I'm sharing this story. The reason I'm sharing this story is because I worked in IT for many years, and not too long ago, about 2.5 years ago, I got laid off from my job, right? And not only getting laid off, but the way I got laid off, I felt humiliated, I felt hurt, I felt angry with myself for ever giving somebody the permission to feed me. But now this is what that did to me, right? And why I am sharing this story. I'm sharing this story to say what? To say for the first time in my life, I am working on what I believe is my calling and my purpose. What that means, Pastor Vidal and Mama Christine, it's a simple question I asked myself. I said, okay, Gustav, when I was working in IT, I was paid good money, right? With my bonuses and everything, there were years I made $200,000. The real question is, are you telling yourself, Gustav, that if you invest 9 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, for 1 year or 2 years, or at that point, I'd already worked for other people for 18 years, not to talk of 18 years of my life. Will I be able to generate $200,000 from my own ingenuity or not? The answer was, I will be able to generate $20 million.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it makes sense, Pastor Vida.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
the reason why I'm sharing this, I'm trying to tie it together, is to make any young, even an older immigrant coming into America understand that it is still possible. There is no country on earth that gives immigrants the opportunity to make things happen like this country. There's a story I've shared quite a few times. I have a pair of boots I bought $275. I love boots. And I'd used it for about 9 years. And the sole, you have that one thing which you have this emotional tie to the thing. Mama Christy, don't be jealous. I'm not saying that he loves his shoes more than you. I am just saying. So I love this shoe, and the sole was beaten. So I took it to a shoe repair shop to repair that shoe. And as I walked into the shop, I started talking to the owner. I said, how are you? He said, fine. And he looked at the shoe, told me he's going to replace the front sole, the back sole. He will polish it up. All that stuff is going to cost $168,000. Mind you, I bought it $275, and I was going to spend $168 to repair the shoe. But that is not the big deal. What really hit me was I asked the guy, how long have you been doing this business? He told me about 12 years. I said, okay. You have any other store other than this? He told me he's in the process of opening a fit store. In my mind, immediately, Pastor Vidal, I knew that this guy is a millionaire. From repairing shoes.
Yes.
So some guy will come from Anambra State. Some guy will come from Edo. Some guy will come from Cameroon, from Senegal, from Ghana, from Liberia. His skill for 20 years was repairing shoes. And you come to America, and now you are trying to go to nursing school. Maybe you don't naturally have the intellect to understand science. You are failing out, And then you start feeling humiliated, you start feeling hurt because you are not making it and you feel like you're being disrespected. Meanwhile, there is a skill that you have. You've developed for 20 years, and now you are in a country where all you need to do is to go on your community Facebook page, like my community here. That page has 7,000 people in my community. Yours probably have more in Fort Worth. You tell people that, hey, there is a guy here in this address who repairs shoes. Bring your shoes, I'll repair them. And start seeing the business coming. So we need to think as immigrants when we're coming to America. I say we need to be courageous, because until you are courageous and audacious, you will not think like that. You only try to go the traditional, the ways that you've been trained for many years to follow, which is only the safe way. Go this way, go do this, then come out and do this and do this and do this. Pastor Vida, do you know that yesterday morning, the city of Georgetown, which is where I live, they sent my waters, my city bill. My bill has always been averaging about $240. They sent me a bill, $1,100. I called the city, I'm fuming. Listen, I don't want to hear. You guys, they say, no, Mr. Achu, we're going to send somebody out to check your meta. Maybe we are wrong. Send somebody out, checks my meta. Mr. Achu, we're sorry, your meta is running. There might be a leak in your house. There's no leak. I don't hear it. But there was a leak, a quiet leak in the toilet up in my children's room. I finally got this guy to come in. He gave me a 7-day appointment because he's so busy. He comes in yesterday morning, 9 a.m. in the morning. He goes to my children's room, looks at it, says, oh, there's a leak here. He goes to his car, picks up something, repairs it, come down to the guest room, check it, repairs a small flap. Mr. Achu, your bill is $350, 22 minutes, 14 seconds later.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my God. I don't know if I'm talking to somebody here.
Yes, you are. I
don't know if I am
the people
talking
there
to
are
somebody
getting
here.
what you're saying. Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Not too long ago, I'll give you another simple example. Not too long ago, about 4 months ago, my fridge had a problem. I called the not insurance, these people, warranty company, and they told me, Mr. Achu, that fridge is 7 years old. We can only pay $300 on it. I said, no problem. Send me the $300. I called the fridge repairer. The guy comes, looks at the fridge, and he says it's going to cost $800. Right? I get the $300 from the warranty people. I add $500 to it. I get the repairer. He comes over. Within 20 minutes, he has ordered the compressor chamber. He comes in about 19 minutes, 40 seconds. He changes the chamber, and I drop him $800. The chamber is about, I can't remember, maybe $450 or something, right? And then I get chatting with this guy because I always love to talk to people. I get chatting with this guy. I say, hey, how many appointments a day do you have? He told me on bad days, he has about 7 appointments. On good days, I could do about 11, 12 appointments. I said, really? He said, yes. I said, okay. Now it makes sense to me. As we walked out to drop him off, because when he came, he told me he was a little bit delayed because his truck had a problem, so he had to use his wife's car. And as I walked him out to his car, he had to jump into his wife's Cadillac Escalade. Now I understood why, because within 19 minutes, he has already made $450. I, as an IT professional at that point, I wasn't making $450 in 19 minutes, okay? I can give you tons of examples like that. Even the guy who unlocked my lock at the storage when my key got lost, he came and messed up and opened the lock for me, right? Within less than 15, 20 minutes, I paid him $110. He averages about 7, 8 appointments a day. What are we talking about? That is $800 a day times 4. 800 times 4, that's about $2,400, no, $3,200 a week times 4 weeks. That is about $12,800 a month. Pastor Vida, what are we talking about, right?
Exactly.
So I'm encouraging immigrants coming into America, be audacious. Don't be afraid. Be stubborn. Yes. Be stubborn. And I'll say that because when I also ask my own self, if I had decided 10 years ago to start pursuing my purpose, would I still be here?
No.
It will take some sacrifice, I don't deny. It will take you going through some pain. But you know what the worst pain? I call it a triple threat. The worst pain a human being can go through is getting old, sick, and broke. Aging is natural. That will come
Yes.
for all of us. Sick,
Yes.
you can delay it a little bit, but broke is in your hands.
Exactly.
No,
exactly.
no. You cannot outsource that one.
And everybody else hearing what's been going on here today, I am sure, let me reiterate that you've gotten some very powerful and useful insights. You see, when you come to this country, your opportunities are boundless. And this is a country where you do not look down on anything. You know, particularly those of us who have done book work in Africa, we come here, we say we are lawyers, we are doctors, we are this, we are that. What are you making? You have those skills. Put them to use, learn them, put your head down, and you will succeed. This is the land where you can rise from grace from grass to grace, and you can make that transition.
Legitimately.
It's doable. So thank you so very much, our brother GustavBAchu. You've dropped powerful things here today, and I am sure that everybody listening would go back and listen and re-listen and take this home and put them to good use.
Exactly.
I pray.
I know you have a channel you are involved in. Do you want to give them a link or something of how to reach out to you? Please use the next opportunity.
So again, my name is GustavBAchu. I think once you publish the video, I'm going to drop my link underneath. But if you just go to YouTube, you type "You Are Enough" in this format, like I type it. You type my name, GustavBAchu, you'll find the channel. Please stay connected, subscribe to the channel, but don't subscribe immediately. First of all, watch a few videos. Make sure you get value out of it, and then you subscribe. I am not interested in people who subscribe because they were told to do that. That's not my goal. My goal is to educate and help people who find value in what we do, right? We are focused around personal development. We are focused around investing for growth and for profits, and also building sustainable legacies.
You heard it all. You've heard his channel. Please ensure you go to that channel, and like he told you, listen to a few videos, watch a few videos before subscribing, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and come back again and again. We're going to be interviewing more and more people. As they come, you benefit from them and you use it and become the success God designed you to be.
And if you enjoyed watching this particular series, you think of watching the playlist on My Financial Missteps Series, which will just appear here. You will find other interviews of other immigrants that we have interviewed here, and I'm sure you're going to gain much value just as you have from this one.